everyone, and welcome to the quarterfinals of the StarCityGames.com Columbus Open weekend. Cedric Phillips, Patrick Sullivan here in the booth. We've got Nick Miller down in the sideboard. He'll be reporting your feature matches of the elimination rounds all weekend long as we get ready here for game number one of Aintrazi playing Sultai Control against Kasey Walton playing Black-Green Seasons Past. We expect it to be a relatively long one here, though Aintrazi and Walton's deck do have some aggressive elements like Sylvan Advocate.
Well, Kasey is mostly sitting on his back heels for the whole game. He does have 4 copies of Sylvan Advocate of his own, but I think that's largely just to block opposing Sylvan Advocates and other small creatures rather than having a proactive game plan. Aintrazi's deck does have enough threats where he can sort of go beat down, but I think that's just going to be a very hard approach in this matchup with Walton having so much removal.
Ruinous Path is going to take care of Jace. You saw Ultimate Price take care of the Advocate, and Aintrazi having some minor land issues. Here is another Advocate. He drew a copy of Sunken Hollow, so he'll play that and pass the turn back over to Walton. For Kasey Walton, it is his first SCG Tour top 8. For Aintrazi, he's no stranger to elimination rounds with his 12th SCG Tour top 8, 2 wins in Baltimore 2010 and Baltimore 2011, as Walton is going to sacrifice this Evolving Wilds.
And this is why I like Walton's matchup, or at least part of the reason I like Walton's matchup here, is his spot removal, game 1, is very live. Aintrazi is playing with a lot of small creatures that are fine to use kill spells on. Walton's creatures, on the other hand, he doesn't have that many of them, and a lot of them enters the battlefield value, like Nissa. So I think Aintrazi is getting the worst side of the, who has the dead card advantage sort of game that's often critical game 1 in control matchups.
An attack for 2 there from Aintrazi. Now he'll play a Morph. Likely to be a Den Protector as we head back Walton's way. The problem for Aintrazi is that he's not making land drops, and Kasey Walton certainly is. Here comes his Nissa. There's a block.
Likely to mean Languish is on the way or some other sweeper.
That is my assumption, and there is your Languish. So the creatures are taken care of. Den Protector was the Morph, and now we head back over to Aintrazi, who will draw a card. He did find a land there for a swamp, and now he can play his Hedron Archive. This is very Aintrazi-esque with the way that this deck is built.
3-color Hedron Archive is about as Aintrazi as you can get.
That's very true. He loves his big mana strategies, and he has the ultimate payoff in Emrakul, the Promised End, if he can get to it. Kasey Walton taking a look at his graveyard. Remember, he does have the card Seasons Past in his deck. He also might be checking for Spell Mastery for a card like Dark Petition, something you typically find in a Seasons Past deck. That's land 6, and there is Seasons Past. So Walton's going to get back an Evolving Wilds, an Ultimate Price, a Nissa, and a Languish. Not bad.
And this card is why I think ultimately Aintrazi is behind in the matchup. It's basically going to be Seasons Past versus Emrakul as the trump cards. Not that Seasons Past is a game winner on its own, but it is just so much value.
Looks like Aintrazi will be drawing a couple of cards here. He scours the laboratory, plays a Lumbering Falls, and passes the turn back. Aintrazi's got a little bit of this, a little bit of that going on at all times.
Mm-hmm.
If you have Delirium, it costs 2 less to play. Draw 3 cards.
So instant speed, concentrate?
Yeah, it can be.
Concentrate is not a card that Wizards of the Coast just doles out anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as card drawing goes, that's quite the rate.
Here comes Nissa yet again. Going to search up a forest. Will Kasey Walton. He's also going to sacrifice the Evolving Wilds. You see the shortcutting here.
Yeah, they both know this is likely to bog down.
Mm-hmm. I think we're going to see Nissa transform here in just a moment. And we do. There's a Sage Animist. We'll see how Kasey Walton wants to use the Planeswalker that starts on 3 counters.
Imagine just go upstairs for a couple reasons. One, this is just a grindy card advantage battle. And 2, to protect it from the Lumbering Falls on the other side of the battlefield.
The follow-up is Read the Bones. So Kasey Walton's going to fall down to 16. Scry 2, Read the Bones, and Evolving Wilds are the cards he's looking at. Now he'll consult the hand. Let's see where theirs are going to go in just a moment. Looks like 1 on top, 1 on bottom. He'll draw 2 cards. And now pass the turn back. Let's head over to Aintrazi. Tough road to climb here. It seems like he's pretty far behind.
Yeah, I mean, you can see Walton's deck is just much more fluid at generating raw card advantage if the board's not contested and he's just able to do his thing. Aintrazi's deck has a lot more moving parts. Additionally, his creature removal just doesn't work with the same efficiency level as Walton's does on the other side.
Oath of Jace placed on the stack. Kasey Walton going to take a look. We can do the same. You don't see Oath of Jace very much, but it is in Aintrazi's deck. 3-mana enchantment. Legendary, of course. When Oath of Jace enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards. A great Delirium enabler.
Though it's worth noting, the more that Walton kind of sits on his heels and doesn't do anything proactive, lets the game go on for a long time, builds up a reactive hand, the more likely that Emrakul just tears the game apart. So Aintrazi does have a potential trump over the long term. But you can tell if it's just a game of we're both kind of playing generic control decks, we're both just drawing cards and trying to set up shop. Walton's deck is doing that a lot more efficiently than Aintrazi's.
Sunken Hollows the land. Here comes the spell. And it's a Ruinous Path to take care of the Nissa. Follows the Sylvan Advocate. Aintrazi's able to use all of his mana for the turn. And now we head over to Kasey Walton. We'll see what his turn involves. In the meantime, we will update you and let you know that Eric the Thrill Rill did win game number 1 of his match. He is currently up a game with his green-white token stack over Matthew Volts and his green-red goggle stack. Rill looking for SCG Tour Open win number 6, as here's a Transgress the Mind. Oath of Liliana is the card that Walton is looking at and reading right now, along with a Hedron Archive and a Hissing Quagmire. So Aintrazi does have this small kind of Oath theme to his deck with Oath of Jace and Oath of Liliana.
Aintrazi's decks frequently have a lot of packages and sub-packages and derivatives of sub-packages. A lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous. I would take the draw 2 out of his hand.
I would as well. I would as well. Not so concerned with Oath of Liliana at this stage of the game. What comes next here for Kasey Walton? It's a Read the Bones. Going to pay 2 life to scry 2 and draw 2 cards, will Kasey Walton. 1 top, 1 bottom. Peel 2. Now there's a forest. And pass. So we head over to Aintrazi. Grasp of Darkness in hand now.
And you are seeing the problem here.
Yep.
Maybe Aintrazi cleans all this up post-board.
That's got to be the hope, right? But game 1, there are plenty of dead ones for him to draw.
Right. And Walton, every turn, is just gassing up, using all of his mana, drawing extra cards, responding to Aintrazi's plays. And on the other side of the table, Aintrazi's trying to make do with cards like Oath of Jace, cleaning up the bad draw steps, just nowhere near the same efficiency level.
Well, one card that is actually quite nice here is Lumbering Falls. Now, it looks like Walton does have a removal spell there in Ultimate Price to take down the Advocate, which means the Lumbering Falls is not as big. But a hexproof threat is still difficult for Walton's deck to deal with.
Yep. There are a couple answers in the deck, and the Hissing Quagmires, there's a Blighted Fen, there's To the Slaughter that could sometimes line up the right way. But it is not the easiest card to answer. But Walton's so far ahead on cards, I have to imagine that Lumbering Falls attacking 4 more times is unlikely to be the outcome of this game.
I would be surprised if that were to get it done. You saw Aintrazi end the turn with a Hissing Quagmire, then enters the battlefield tapped, of course. As we head back Kasey's way, he did draw a Sylvan Advocate. Llanowar Waste is the land for the turn. There is the Advocate.
Also an answer to Lumbering Falls.
Absolutely. Hissing Quagmire. Looks like we're going to go beatdowns, perhaps. Aintrazi does have a Grasp in his hand, as I mentioned. And that Quagmire is a 4/4 with Sylvan Advocate on the battlefield. And now he'll use it. So Quagmire down. You can't forget that. Kasey Walton does know the last card now in Aintrazi's hand is Oath of Liliana, so that advocate might be dead here in just a moment.
And Lumbering Falls may be allowed to keep trucking on in.
Yeah. There's Oath of Liliana. There goes the advocate. It's almost like Walton knew it was coming.
As you're so fond of saying, sometimes you just have to get through that stage of the game.
That's true. Aintrazi might be thinking Lumbering Falls. Might also be considering just cracking that Hedron Archive for 2 cards.
I don't know if Aintrazi can really try to just spin his tires with cards and win the game that way. I like this attack.
Well, I'd like To the Slaughter to take care of that.
All right. I like that attack much less.
We don't see To the Slaughter very much, but it does play a nice role in taking care of Lumbering Falls if that card is very popular. Instant Speed Edict with a lot more upside than that.
Right. And it's one of these, you know, if you draw it as a single card, it's probably fine. It's a nice card to rebuy. It gets you out of corner case scenarios involving Planeswalkers or threats like Lumbering Falls we just saw. So a really natural fit for this style of deck. It works even if you're not doing the synergistic thing, and it does cover some corner case stuff that a lot of other removal spells can't.
Nissa Vast Wazir has shown up yet again. And that is a transformation into Nissa Sage Animist. +1. Put a land on the battlefield there for Walton. And again, he's up a lot of cards. As here's Hissing Quagmire from Aintrazi. And the problem is that he just hasn't really been able to turn the corner yet.
Right, you kind of get the feeling here that unless Aintrazi lands some wild haymaker with Emrakul or somehow Walton can't answer a Lumbering Falls, that the game is getting away from him. He's so far down on resources. I mean, he's empty-handed at this point.
There's an attack for 3 more. And it looks like Aintrazi's just going to go after Walton's life total as opposed to trying to check the Planeswalker.
And I think that's the right path for Aintrazi to take in this spot. He's not going to be able to out-control or out-card advantage Walton at this point. He just has to hope that Walton's hand somehow can't handle a Lumbering Falls.
Well, swamp off the top. Let's see what's coming here. Got Ob Nixilis. Okay. That doesn't answer Lumbering Falls either. And you got to pay to draw cards, so this is a little bit interesting here. Kasey Walton's got to make sure he doesn't get himself killed because of the 2 creature lands that are out there.
Yep.
Well, multiple of them, honestly, with Lumbering Falls and Hissing Quagmires and all that jazz.
I'm curious. I think that if Walton wanted to take the path here of casting Ob Nixilis and drawing a card, with Aintrazi empty-handed, I think I would have just cranked out a 4/4 with Nissa.
Yeah,
then you have everything covered, and you can start generating card advantage. The way it is now, unless he has some sort of answer to the Lumbering Falls and to the other creature lands, he's just taking another shot on the chin.
Yeah.
It's possible he's just on the hunt for Seasons Past or Dark Petition.
Aintrazi will sacrifice the Hedron Archive, draw a couple of cards. Den Protector among them. Evolving Wilds the other, and now Ruinous Path, which is not bad if we're talking about the Awaken game.
Though I don't know if Aintrazi can afford to take a turn off. Well, you know, like I've said, he's so far behind in the card advantage game, and he sort of ignored the Planeswalkers now for a few turns. So maybe his path is just keep attacking and hope you can't find one of your few answers to this scenario.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like the idea of maybe using Ruinous Path here to awaken a land and deal a bunch of damage that way.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a hit for 4, ideally.
But I think if he's going to go down that road, he has to get that Nissa off the battlefield because that card just cranks out a 4/4, which is really problematic.
Lumbering Falls going to go active again. Here comes Aintrazi again. Walton is going to take that damage. He's down to 4. It's Ruinous Path. Take care of Nissa.
And I like that as the target.
Mm-hmm.
Now Walton doesn't have access to a 4/4 next turn. Additionally, if he pluses the Ob Nixilis, he falls to 3, and then the Lumbering Falls is lethal.
Walton picked up a copy of Transgress the Mind. That doesn't appear to be helping all that much. Aintrazi is going to shortcut here very quickly and sacrifice Evolving Wilds. Going to go get himself a Mystery Land, which is a forest. just keeping it face down because he would do that on his opponent's end step, but they're trying to save a little bit of time here. Here's Transgress the Mind, then Protector. You can't take that one. And we got our first winner here in our quarterfinals. It's Eric the Thrill Rill. He wins his match 2-0 over Matthew Volts. So green-white tokens. You thought it was dead, but it's not. Andrew Boswell got 9th with it, and now Eric Rill will finish at least in the top 4 with it as he moves on to play the winner of this match between Ali Aintrazi and Kasey Walton. Kasey Walton, he's down to 3. And why do I have a feeling that Kasey Walton is just dead to a Lumbering Falls here?
Seems very likely. A lot of his deck plays at sorcery speed. I mean, certainly the ways he has to set up an answer to Lumbering Falls at this stage.
There's an activation. Attack. And wow, that is going to do it. Unbelievable. Ali Aintrazi off the back of almost solely Lumbering Falls is going to win this game over Kasey Walton. Sultai Control up a game over Black Green Seasons Past.
And give Ali credit there. I mean, it takes a lot of guts there to just put your head down and say, I'm ignoring your Planeswalkers for the most part. I'm so far behind in the card advantage race that I just have to hope this works. He identified that line several turns in advance, and Kasey was not able to find another answer to Lumbering Falls. And Aintrazi, I'm comfortable saying, steals game 1.
Yeah, I think that's the way I would look at it as well. As we take a look at the sideboards here, we will start with Kasey Walton in his 2 Deadweight, a Naturalized, 2 Virulent Plague, 2 Lamel, Pacifist, 2 Duress, a Transgress the Mind, Infinite Obliteration, another copy of Seasons Past, along with a Tireless Tracker, a Kalidas Trader Get, and an Ultimate Price.
A really good anti-control setup here. I like bringing in the 2 copies of Duress and the 1 copies of Transgress the Mind. Even though Aintrazi is playing essentially a Highlander deck with a lot of his threats, I think the 1 Infinite Obliteration is worth bringing in here because Emrakul is such a prominent threat in the matchup in the long game. If Walton can strip that card out of Aintrazi's deck and find more answers to Lumbering Falls, he should be pretty well situated, I think.
Other side of things here for Aintrazi, 3 Summary Dismissal, 2 Lamholt Pacifist, 2 Pick the Brain, 2 Deadweight, 2 Kalidas Trader of Get, an Ishkana Graph Widow to go along with the copies you see in Ali's main deck, a Dragonlord Slumgar, a Painful Truths, and a Liliana the Last Hope.
I'm in the market for the Summary Dismissals here. I like the 1 copy of Painful Truths, the extra Liliana. Other than that, not really great options for the matchup. I think Pick the Brain might be fine here as well. Some more counter spells, more card drawing, discard, that sort of stuff.
Well, I think Ali's got enough cards to actually get out of his deck that don't matter.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, he's got some stinkers in there for sure. And that's why it's so great for Aintrazi. And this is the case with most of his control decks. When he picks up game 1, he's able to clean up the edges of his deck, take out the worst half-dozen cards, and he has relevant cards in his sideboard here. So things get better.
Yeah, not a bad spot to be in Aintrazi, stealing game number 1 there in what felt like a bad matchup, especially for game 1. We'll see how things shake out over the next 2 games here. As these players do shuffle up, well, unless you know that Devin Kepke did win game number 1 over Danny Jessup in that Bank Company mirror. So right now, Team Card Hoarder up a game over Team MGG. And while we do wait for these 2 players to get ready, let's talk about Star City Games Game Night, the very popular promotion. We want to thank everybody at home who has played in this and all the store owners and tournament organizers who have run this. And we got some details for you about what's going on over the next couple of months.
Head over to go.starcitygames.com/GameNight to get more information. Every month we come out with a new kit with new tokens and pins. We send them to the stores that are signed up for Game Night. The stores can then run Game Night themselves any day of the week, any format they want. Get players in the store for some fun and friendly Magic on a regular basis. This is the July kit, Snipcaster base. We're winding down time in July, but we have the next couple of kits announced. In August, we have Young Burrowmancer, and then in September, Bone Chewer Giant. Again, go.starcitygames.com/GameNight. Find the Game Night closest to you. Stores, if you are not signed up for this program, go contact your Star City Games in-store play representative. Get signed up as soon as possible. Get these kits that are coming down the pipeline.
Ali Aintrazi taking a good look at Kasey Walton's sideboard. Kasey doing the same. We'll learn a little more about Ali Aintrazi, who is a 29-year-old from Matthews, North Carolina, member of Team Bolas with his 11. Let's make it 12 after this weekend. Open top 8s with 2 wins and maybe a third one on the way. 2 invitational top 8s with 1 victory. Last year, beat his good friend Chris Van Meter in the finals. A lot of fun facts about Ali, a pretty fun, chill, laid-back guy. One of the things that's great about Ali, too, is that, you know, you're always going to find him, much like Jeff Hoagland and some other players on the SCG Tour, they like to do things their own way.
Absolutely. Ali likes big mana strategies. He likes multicolor control decks. And he likes searching his deck for one-ofs. And his deck is kind of up to all of that this weekend.
Yeah. And he loves 3 colors along with Hedron Archive.
Correct.
Or some other colorless thing that generates mana.
Yes. I need a lot of colors of mana, and I also just need a lot of mana.
Yeah.
I need a lot of everything.
I'm sure Gilded Lotus is probably one of his favorite cards.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Gotta be a first pick in cube for all.
Well, I don't ever pass the thing either. What's your cube strategy?
Depends on the cube. Every cube's different.
Vintage cube.
I like taking the power and the blue cards.
Ah, you're that guy.
Well,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
if it's close, if it's a reasonably developed cube, then I err towards beatdown strategies or pure control decks. I don't like playing with mid-range creatures. I want to be Jackal Pup guy or Wrath of God control magic guy.
Okay.
I'm not into being Thragtusk guy. That's never been me in a cube or whatever your version of Thragtusk is. Obstinate Baloth or Kitchen Finks. I'm not interested in that kind of stuff.
Are you Storm guy?
Very rarely. I don't draft those decks very well. There's
Yeah.
a certain that's a particular craft that I just haven't mastered. But yeah, I can cast Mana Drain and Wrath of God. Fact of Friction. I can cast
Yeah,
those.
I can do those.
I can cast those cards too.
I've been working on my ability to be Oath of Druids guy recently.
Okay.
Kind of a weird deck to draft though, because I didn't play when Oath of Druids was a thing.
Yep.
So I don't really know what those decks look like. I just know you want to have very few creatures.
Yes.
So and then Oath into something busted and maybe use your graveyard to your advantage.
I played Turbo Land in a PTQ once.
Okay.
With Zvi's Horn of Greed Exploration Oath of Druids deck.
My favorite deck when I was a kid.
It's a long time ago. This is back when there were sanctioned PTQs where Tropical Island and Force of Will were legal. So we're talking
That's
way,
a long time ago.
way back in the day. But I have a little experience with Oath of Druids.
Okay. They should reprint that.
It's a really awful design. 2-mana Shaman, if your opponent casts a creature, they lose the game. It's like, okay. We sort of have this philosophy of trying to promote creatures in Standard, so we probably can't do this. Oh, it's symmetrical. That's like the response of basically every poorly developed design in Magic's history.
Yeah, it works for both players.
Armageddon. Winter Orb. Contamination. Contamination, another great symmetrical design.
Symmetrical card.
Yeah.
I don't
It's
see a
actually
problem.
not symmetrical because you have to sacrifice the creature in return.
Tragic Arrogance is symmetrical.
Well, that's actually kind of a fun texturized.
A little bit, yeah.
And the person casting it has agency over what happens.
Yeah.
It's not, all of the lands are destroyed, and look, I have 2 Savannah Lions. That's, this is a good. It's not even really a symmetrical design. It's like a fake symmetrical design
It's sort of.
with some texture and some counterplay. This is fine. In contrast to Oath of Druids, what's the puzzle with Oath of Druids? Don't have creatures in your deck. Just have a Gristlebrand. Or a Spike Weaver so they're fogged for the rest of the game or whatever.
One Cognivore.
One Cognivore.
Those are the old school days.
Shout out Justin Gary,
Yeah.
Pro Tour winner.
That's right.
Back before they made the real busted things to Oath for.
Don't talk about Cognivore like that.
Yeah. Back when it was a big flying creature. It's like Spirit of the Night, basically, but blue.
Oh, Kagi. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Look at that. The real Lurgoy. Tarmogoyf ain't got
Right.
nothing on that thing.
Right. And sometimes you oath this thing and it would just the top card of your deck and it just died. And they had one turn to do something. It's a little bit different.
Both players going to take a look at their opening hand here. Kasey Walton will be on the play. He's down a game. We have Devin Kepke walking by the booth, flexing his muscles. I believe that leads me to believe he won his match.
Yeah.
I think
That
that's-
sounds right.
I think that's what's happening here. Team Card Hoarder strikes again. Here's a duress from Kasey Walton. You see on Aintrazi's hand 2 Jace, Emrakul, Summary Dismissal, which got hit by the duress and lands. Just a little of this, little of that.
Yeah. Subderivative. Inside-outside packages.
Yep.
Some looting to tie it all together. Aintrazi got to be a big fan of looting.
Probably his favorite mechanic.
Yeah.
There's the Evolving Wild. Still sacrifice that land now. Went back over to Kasey Walton while Ali finds the land. Ooh, Infinite Obliteration.
Oh, get those Jaces.
Oh, that sounds nice.
You can get the Emrakul if that's a long-term consideration.
Forget the Emrakul. Give me
yeah,
those Jaces.
I want the Jaces and leave him just with an Emrakul and some lands in his hand.
There's a land.
That's how I'm looking to do it.
Oh, yeah. What are we naming?
You can get the Emrakul later. You shuffle that back in, 2 to 4 it,
Get
out
with
of your grip.
Seasons Past.
Right. Get another shot at it.
Name a creature card. Target creature and opponent control. Search target opponent's graveyard, hand, and or library by Jace. Exiled. That's a beating right there. So get to search the deck. Take them all out. It's the best Infinite Liberation I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Does that mean you get the Oath of Jaces too? Or no?
I don't think that works that way.
No. All Jace-related cards. All Jaces out. Now, it is important if I'm Kasey. I would be doing the same thing right now too. Take a look at his deck. Get some mental notes here.
Right.
About how he sideboarded, what cards you got to worry about.
He's got a lot of odd ducks throughout the 75 and traverse the Uvenwald to go get them. So I would want to have a short list of cards to keep in mind, top of my head here.
I mean, Dragonlord Slumgars do I have to worry about after sideboard.
Exactly.
It's a pretty impactful card. There we go. All right, let's go to Aintrazi. Painful True is a pretty nice draw. Don't think he can cast it right now.
Yeah, I think it's next turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of Ali's lands are entering the battlefield tapped right now between creature lands and evolving wilds. Heck, even the choked estuary. Here's a Read the Bones for Kasey Walton. Not a bad time to be casting this. He'll take a look at the top couple of cards. Scry 2. Draw 2. Lose 2. Should just be called Read the Twos.
That's not a great name.
Why? That's why I'm not in game design.
That's more of a creative thing.
I'm not creative.
Read the twos is. Even twos is not a.
Is that even a word?
That's kind of a nonsense, yeah.
He'll sacrifice the evolving wilds in case he'll get a force out of his deck. And Ali's going to play Painful Truths. Painful Threes.
Mm-hmm.
How's that?
Approximately as bad as Read the Twos.
Got it. 3 cards on the way here for Aintrazi. There's the choked estuary.
Potentially a good bad name, though. Just not a good name for a card.
Painful Threes?
Yeah, I think, that was.
All right.
That'd be fine.
That is actually kind of a good band name.
Oh.
Looks like a Nissa here. Search up a forest. Come out on stage. Lights are off. Hey, everybody. We're the Painful Threes.
Yeah.
Opening guitar riff.
You can only have 3 people in the band, though.
Thanks. Thanks.
So
Thank you.
cuts off some creative space.
Thank you for that. Here's a Transgress the Mind. Nissa, Den Protector. That Emrakul still over there, along with Sylvan Advocate, another Den Protector, and Ultimate Price. So even though Aintrazi has a lot of cards in his hand, not a lot of actual options.
And there is, I think, a lot of value in exiling the Emrakul and just being done with it forever.
Yeah.
Because it is such a critical dimension of Aintrazi's attack in this matchup. I also think that it might be only one of 2 cards he can take because the other one's a Nissa.
Yeah, those are the only real options. The rest he cannot select. And I mean, I can certainly see, depending on what Kasey's hand looks like, why I'd want to take Nissa here. But like you said, there's an argument to be made of I'm done with having to even think about and worry about Emrakul.
Right. Now, if you think you're going to have another opportunity to transgress the mind down the road and you want to handle it that way, that's fine. Nissa is definitely the more important in an immediate sense.
Another land enters the battlefield tapped here for Aintrazi. Hissing Quagmire. That is a Sylvan Advocate. This is an Ultimate Price to take care of Nissa, and we'll be heading back Kasey Walton's way. He'll draw.
Samuel Ball. At this point, if you made top 8, please be to the left of the stage. All the players, your standings have been posted on the A through F pairing score.
can probably hear our head judge of our modern classic announcing top 8, so congratulations to those top 8 players. Legacy top 8 taking place, number 1 overall seed. Any guesses?
I'm going to go with Noah Walker playing Grixis Delver.
Very close. Caleb Shearer playing Storm.
Okay.
Yeah. Noah Walker, I believe, was number 4.
Sure.
Kasey Walton, your number 7 overall seed right now in our standard open. Trying to figure out how he wants to move forward, given that the Sylvan Advocate's probably going to become a little bit larger. He's just going to use a Languish. Maybe a little surprised to see that card in his deck after sideboard.
Well, Aintrazi has enough small stuff going on. He still has the Den Protector, Sylvan Advocate, Jace stuff going on. Not the Language is going to be good all the time, but not a totally dead card. Not great in that spot, but again, you can see Walton's kind of got the edge in terms of raw card count here. He's got more resources to work with. So it's just about keeping the life total high and making sure he doesn't get punked out by Lumbering Falls and or Emrakul.
Hissing Quagmire there from Walton. You saw Aintrazi last turn play a Morph. It's a Den Protector. Removal spell there on the Den Protector, so Aintrazi's going to unmegamorph this and get something back. He's considering Painful Truths, and while Ali does decide what he wants to take, I want to let you know that Kyle Bogamies and Ronnie Rittner are going to game number 3, so Bant company for Kyle Bogamies, and for you fans of the Black-White Angels deck out there, get ready for a third one over there. Eric Rill, Devin Kepke, they're waiting patiently. See who they're going to play against. Rill plays the winner of this match. Kepke plays the winner of the Bogamies-Rittner match. Both of those players playing some very powerful base green-white decks, Rill green-white tokens, Kepke, Bant company. Looks like a Painful Truth yet again here for Aintrazi. He'll pay 3 life to draw 3 cards. Traverse, Sunken Hollow, and the Hedron Archive are the cards he's picked up.
Aintrazi's turn 7 Sunken Hollow entering the battlefield tap, also a fine summary.
Yeah. Well, he might just go traversing for a basic land.
Oh.
If you consider that. Though I think he might have Delirium here. Creature, yeah, sorcery, land, creature, instant, so I might be thinking Advocate.
Sure, it's a fine way to fill out the mana, at least get to parity on the battlefield. Get to play your land tapped, and Aintrazi is still working towards Emrakul. He's going to get there fairly soon.
Yep. This is the risk you take by leaving it there. And realistically, if you think about the games that we've watched Aintrazi play this weekend, achieving Delirium not really hard for his deck. We look at this deck as a Sultai control deck, and I think we should. We don't look at it as a Delirium deck like we did with Todd Stevens and Corey McDuffie this weekend, but Delirium for Ollie's deck is pretty easy to accomplish.
Yeah, when we think of Delirium decks, we're probably thinking of, the Grim Flare, Mind Rack Demon, Ishana, like the explicit Delirium threats. Aintrazi's deck certainly is using the graveyard as a resource and certainly can get a bunch of different card types in there. Not a whole lot of Delirium payoffs, but this is a control deck using its graveyard as a resource, which it's very common with Sultai decks.
Yep. Here comes Sylvan Advocate. Aintrazi says, I'll block with mine. What is this? 6 mana very quickly. Season's passed. All right, can't stop you. See what Kasey Walton wants to go get. Evolving Wilds Duress. Transgress.
And this is the line of play here that potentially rationalizes leaving the Emrakul. If he had Seasons Pass and he had a path towards it, he was going to be able to get back Transgress. Nissa was definitely the more pressing concern in the immediate sense, especially with Aintrazi missing land drops. So assuming Aintrazi does not get to cast Emrakul next turn, Walton gets the best of both worlds, of getting the short-term threat out of the hand earlier on, while still being able to remove the big long-term threat that is Emrakul.
Walton's going to get back a Languish as well. I think he's trying to figure out what 3 he wants. He's got some decisions to make. Going to go with Nissa. instead of Infinite Liberation or Read the Bones. So he's going to play Evolving Wilds since he's not played a land this turn. Going to sacrifice that right away, get a land. There's a Swamp. And again, he is returning with Seasons Past. Duress, Transgress, The Mind, Nissa, Vastwood Seer, and Languish. Over to Ali.
So I think 4 card types in the graveyard. By the looks of things, instant sorcery, land, creature. So Emrakul currently 9 mana.
Mm-hmm.
And I think without Emrakul in the deck, given how far behind he is on raw resources, going to be a challenge for Aintrazi to win this game if his Emrakul is hit by Transgress the Mind next turn.
I do think it'll be difficult, but we did see just how effective Lumbering Falls can be.
Yeah, there was a path for Aintrazi to steal the game last time. And he does have a Lumbering Falls already. But Walton working with, I would argue, more resources than the last game and already has an answer on the battlefield. Well, I suppose not, as long as Aintrazi can keep his Sylvan Advocate in play. Then you have a 5/5 Lumbering Falls. But my guess is Aintrazi's Sylvan Advocate is not long for this world. Things just sort of die a lot in these kind of matchups.
Yeah, they do. Aintrazi doing a lot of math here to figure out what's the best way for him to optimize his turn. Looks like Hedron Archive is going to be an option here, but there's also going to be a morph and Den Protector. So there is Den Protector's morph.
I think Aintrazi might just be, I wouldn't be surprised here if he just went beatdowns this turn. He gets the ultimate price back, kills the Sylvan Advocate, and again abandons the sort of long-term control path and just says, all right, I'm going to try to beat you up, and hopefully your hand's just a little clunky and filled with discard spells, and this is a way to steal it.
Well, that's exactly what he did. He took care of that Sylvan Advocate with a removal spell. Got in for 4. Walton's down to 14. It's 14 all. But Aintrazi's got a little bit better of a battlefield position right now. So I'm sure Walton would like to slow the game down, pick his hand apart, all that jazz. But I'm not sure if Aintrazi's ever going to give him the opportunity. And in the meantime, old Emrakul's looming over this game.
But that's why I really like Aintrazi's line. Think about the cards that Walton got back. He got back a Duress and a Transgress the Mind. The idea that Aintrazi's going to be able to maintain a hand and react to plays is nonsense. He's got to just damage race at this point. It's the same path that worked in the first game. I think the odds are low ultimately that it works, but I do think, again, it's his best shot for winning this.
Transgress does take care of Emrakul. That's gone for good. Hedron Archive and Sunken Hollow are the cards in Ali Aintrazi's hand. We'll see where Kasey Walton wants to go next.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking for Joe.
And he's got more cards, but he had more cards last game, too.
You know, if his follow-up is Languish, who even cares, you know? You keep yourself an Advocate, your Lumbering Falls is still good to go.
Come up to the stage.
There's Nissa. That'll resolve. Time to go searching for a land. You mentioned not caring about the Languish, and I think I agree. Doesn't really do very much right now.
And Nissa is not great in this spot for a similar reason. Even if Nissa generates a 4/4 token, that's outsized by the Lumbering Falls and by the Sylvan Advocate. It's odd, in both games, Walton has been up so much in terms of raw card count and in selection. And yet that hasn't been good enough.
Yeah. He needs to resolve Seasons Past in each game.
Yep.
And there's Duress. Take care of the Hedron Archive. Swamp is the land for the turn. Transform. Starts on 3. I think you're almost forced to minus here. Well, if you don't minus, you're dead once you have a removal spell. Because Aintrazi has enough mana once he plays a land to activate Lumbering Falls and Hissing Quagmire.
Yep.
And with the bonus that Sylvan Advocate provides, it's more than enough damage, especially with Den Protector out there. So I think he actually has to make a Shia. assuming no removal spell in Kasey Walton's hand. And we know he has a Languish over there. But can't play that right now. So he'll minus. There's a Shia. All right, pass. Let's go to Aintrazi. He's in pretty good shape right now.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of blocking that this token can do.
Looks like he's thinking fire up 2 Quagmires.
I really like firing up 2 Quagmires here. Because your 1 Quagmire is already going to trade with the token. So this is a great window to make sure you can connect with the other one.
Gotcha. Attack Ali or attack that Nissa?
Well, let's see here. He can try to chop it up here a little bit by saying, all right, Den Protector at Nissa and attack you with everything else and try to get in for 12 or trade and get the token off the battlefield.
Okay.
I don't know how dire the straits, though, that Walton thinks he's going to be in. It's possible that if Ali sends in everything here and sends the Den Protector at Nissa, let's say, that Walton may just put the token in front of the Den Protector. But then what is Walton's answer to all these creature lands?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes to 2 in that scenario. So anything is lethal.
A real weakness that the Blackman Seasons Past deck has, as you can tell, is creature lands.
Right. And if the token here goes in front of one of the Hissing Quagmires, that's great news for Aintrazi. Walton still takes 8 points of damage, falls to 6, loses the Nissa, and the Den Protector still in play next turn. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of no bad way for this attack to break.
Well, there are the attacks. Walton's going to fall down to 3.
Okay, I guess Aintrazi sent everything at Walton. Mm-hmm. I thought there was a chance based on the way that he was orienting his cards that the Den Protector was going after the Nissa.
I actually like the thought of put you down to 3. The reason I like that is you're going to see the top card here, Seasons Past, be added to Kasey Walton's hand. That makes it so that Lumbering Falls is always lethal.
Everything's lethal also.
I like that a lot. There's a land. It's forced.
Remember an article from Jerry Thompson during the Jeskai Flash days with Sphinx's Revelation where he was talking about playing a Supreme Verdict in the main deck, even though he's playing with a ton of creatures. And he said, you can draw all the cards you want, but it doesn't matter if you can't beat the board. And it looks like Walton in back-to-back games might be a victim of that. Mm-hmm. Up so many cards with a ton of selection, and he might just not be able to handle these various creature lands.
Yeah, he just drew a Seasons Pass. He can draw more cards.
Right, but that's 6 mana not converting to anything with the battlefield.
And that might be what's doomed him here. I think it's pretty telling that Aintrazi was actually kind of able to notice what his role is.
Oh, I think once the game hit the point of no return where Aintrazi couldn't keep cards in his hand and couldn't win a long game because Walton was up so many cards, Aintrazi just converted to a beatdown deck, threw caution to the wind, took some high-risk lines, but it was his best shot of being able to steal the games, and he was able to steal game 1 that way, and it looks like he's on the verge of taking game 2 in the same fashion.
Walton going to take a look at the graveyard here. He's trying to figure out how the heck do I get out of this spot. I got to beat the Sylvan Advocate and the Den Protector on the battlefield along with the creature lands. Where's a good place to start? Do I even have a good place to start? My Nissa didn't really net me anything. Let's try Liliana.
This feels like more spinning of the tires here.
It does.
Converting 3 mana into something that barely impacts the board.
Mm-hmm. It's going to slow down one of those creatures, I guess.
Right.
That's really about it. The minus effect doesn't appear to be playing much of a role in this particular game state.
Well, he can turn one of the 2 creatures on the battlefield into a threat that is not lethal. So that is a starting point. I don't know if that's going to be enough.
There's Languish. That's all well and good. He needs a blocker now. And he just passes the turn back. So I'm not sure how we're going to go about beating the Lumbering Falls that I believe is down there.
Yeah, not with 2 mana up, I'm pretty sure.
You see Aintrazi is immediately reaching for 4 lands.
He's got a Hissing Quagmire, too, to boot.
Yep. So Aintrazi's going to move his lands forward, activate both of his creature lands, and attack, going after Kasey Walton. And that is going to do it. Ali Aintrazi is going to win this match over Kasey Walton. 2-0. Walton drew as many cards as he wanted, but Aintrazi figured out what role he needed to play to win the game, and it was take a beatdown approach for his Sultai control deck.